It's a positive film. It has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science.
The story, when you actually put it into words, is only so much nonsense to hang a great visual experience onto. It's the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
Sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept. The fact that there is some deity or some power or some force that sort of controls our destiny works for good and also works for evil.
Marvelous, healthy innocence. Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang bang and people fall over and are dead, but, no horrors. A sort of wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
It's got whatever you want it to be. It's pure entertainment. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it can be interpreted as long as you enjoy it, which is the intention.
Hello and welcome back to Generation Skywalker. You're listening to the first edition of The Modern Way for 2022. Joining me tonight, I have got Daniel. Good evening, Dan.
Hi there.
We've also got Craig. Good evening, Craig.
Hello.
We've also got Mark. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening.
We've got Jez. Good evening, Jez.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too, Jez. You're the first one with manners. Thank you. And we've got Grant. We've got a full house. Good evening, Grant.
Happy New Year, folks.
Is this the first show we've recorded as a six?
I believe so.
We did the beer show, didn't we?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that was more about 12, wasn't it?
Hopefully this will be just as slick.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, this is our first show of 2022, which is brilliant. The Modern Way, we haven't actually released a Modern Way since October, and even that was based around book month. So we'd looked at toys from the book. So actually, it's been over 3 months since we've had a proper Modern Way show. We are going to be delving back into 2021, reviewing the year and what happened in it from a modern perspective. But it is the end of the year, so I just want to go round you all, give you all a minute to just tell us where your modern journey is, because people that follow the Modern Way will know that Mark hated modern. We've seen a journey with him. Even last Christmas, he had started buying modern. Craig's a modern man that buys stuff for certain displays. Dan buys all sorts of crap. Jez was another one that was not into modern, but we know that he's slowly changing his ways as well. So, to each of you, what has been your modern journey for the past 12 months? And while you're at it, let's chuck in your favourite modern purchase of 2021. Okay, let's start with Craig.
My journey, my modern journey for last year. Well, this time last year, I was just finishing off customizing that Black Series Paplu that came in the Heroes of Endor set. And I haven't bought a single Black Series figure since, nor have I bought anything from the vintage collection. Haven't ordered any Star Wars Hot Toys, and I didn't back any Haslab projects either. So I did get into some modern, and when I do look back at the list of things I've got, I do spend quite a bit of money on it, more than I thought. So what I did get into, and I was late to the party because you guys all pre-ordered this straight away, was the Mandalorian Retro Collection figures, which I fell for after I'd actually bought a Grief Karga in Asda, and was really impressed with it. I was really impressed with what they'd done with that figure and that line. So I went on to buy the whole lot, including the Tarkin and the Luke Snowspeeder figures that came with the games, because they were reduced in the Entertainer. And I'm opening them. I think the cards are rubbish. We talked about that at length. I'm going to stick to the ones that they never made the first time round, so I'm not really interested in the straight reissues or repaints or variants like the Remnant Stormtrooper. It was just nice to hunt down figures for under a tenner on the high street and in supermarkets again, and open them up and put their guns in their hands. And they sit near my loose vintage run, not with my loose vintage run, but near them. So there was those, the retro collection, particularly the Mando ones. And the other thing that featured heavily last year were Geeky Tiki mugs. And I've totted it up. I bought 11 Geeky Tiki pieces in total last year. A lot in one go from sales that were too good to miss on Amazon in the summer. So, bought them on price really because they were a good deal. But I also got the Landspeeder, the Max Rebo and the Retro Arcade Cabinet that were released on May the 4th. Two kind of modern lines that are, contemporary, other things that we sort of talk about in terms of modern. So little bits from my Shadows of the Empire run, which is something I dip in and out of. We talked about the Tots cards in the book show last October. So a few bits of those books, Lego, things that are sort of evergreen that always kind of pop up regardless of the year. And then because we do the show, there's all the random stuff that is often inspired by researching and discussing the things that we do, like that used on Vong figure from 2009, which we talked about on the last Modern Way show. I bought things like C-3PO Corksicle reusable coffee mugs because they're just cool. Crochet Chewbacca's off Etsy. So there's always that kind of random things that pop up. 2 pieces of artwork from Darren Heyman, of course. But the most random and surprising thing was something we discussed on the Modern Way back in whenever it was when we did the full roundup. Anybody want to guess what random modern thing I bought?
Is it those electric lightsaber barbecue tongs?
Nope. I'll put you out of your misery. Funko Pop retro comic styled Darth Vader.
That's your favourite item of the year?
It's not my favourite item of the year, but it's something that I'm bringing up because the kind of alleyways that this show takes me down. We talk about Funko Pops all the time, month in, month out. We always kind of make the same noises about them. But the last time that one came around, where they've taken the pop and they've kind of given it this paint app that's sort of supposed to look like a comic character, and they've got it in this sort of Liechtenstein style pop art box. And I just think it's really cool, and it sits really nicely with the Jax Vader that they did from San Diego a few years ago, where they painted him in the sort of artwork of the Hildebrand posters. It's sort of in the same art toy spirit, I think. So yeah, I bought a Funko Pop. But my favourite purchase has to be the £9.55 Mandalorian playing cards released in April last year by Theory 11. I just think they're beautiful, beautiful things. So not a figure, not a hot toy, pack of cards for under a tenner, but my favourite thing, I think.
Well, so it's interesting you bring up Funko. I mean, we do cover it, but we don't give it a lot of love. But I'm also aware, let's go to Dan next. He definitely bought the Valentine collection of those for Emma. So Dan, what's your year been like modern-wise?
So I spent the summer renovating my collecting room after being inspired by my visit to Tiki 421, previously known as Stu's Garage, back in July, which has given me, I suppose, a lot more options for displaying things that they've been gathering dust up in my loft. So in tandem with that, I've been re-evaluating what I had, selling stuff off, using the profits to buy more stuff. I've got 3 new cabinets, loads more shelving, all lit up beautifully, and I'm really happy with it. I suppose in terms of collecting the main lines we discussed, I've shifted completely away from Black Series. I haven't bought any Black Series at all this year, which I don't think I had at the back end of last year when we did the last roundup. Other than a couple of Bad Batch figures for Harrison, I've not seen or touched any Black Series since then. In terms of vintage collection, I've carried on with my Rogue One focus. So I've got 3 more additions to that this year. So there was a Rogue One Darth Vader, there was the Rebel Fleet Troop that came with the Tantive 4 box set, and I've got the Antok Merrick that came with the Blue Leader X-Wing. So I've had 3 more figures added into that. There's no more on the horizon. There's no more up for pre-order, so I'm complete on that line at the minute. I have changed direction with the Mandalorian vintage collection. I'm in the middle of selling those off. I am going to focus on the retro collection to sit alongside my Razor Crest. So I've pre-ordered the second wave of those that we're going to talk about a bit more later on, and obviously got the first wave back in the summer. The 2 areas where my collecting has been growing is Tikis and Hot Toys. So firstly on the Tikis, Craig, I'll take your 11 Tikis and I'll see your 21 Tikis. So at the start of last year, I had 3, I think, and I had a count up the other day, and I think I'm on 24 or 25. I got the Jabba the Hutt for Christmas and the Mando and the Baby Yoda ones as well. So yeah, the same as you, I was in on the sales back in the summer. We had our job lot that we bought over from the States to get hold of the Max Rebo and the arcade, and I put a few extras in for myself as well. And birthdays, Father's Days, Christmas gifts, like I've said already, I've got tons of them. And Emma really likes them too, which has worked out well. So I've got them on display in my kitchen now. I've had a couple of shelves put up there, and I've got all my Tikis laid out. I think favourites from those would have to be, I really like the Han and Greedo 2-pack that I got. My mum got me that for my birthday, or that Max Rebo one. That's really cool as well. In terms of hot toys, I think when we did our end of year show last year, I said I would buy a hot toy this year. I've ended up buying 6 and getting 1 for my birthday. So I'm now sitting on 7 hot toys altogether, with 3 more on pre-order. So I think, talking to you guys, listening to Six Scale Scavengers, joining all the Facebook groups I've been on, I've learned so much about them, from displaying them, where to buy them, the whole community. And I think Grant spoke about that last year when we did this show about, the community around them. And you get so much, I suppose, good feedback from the crowd there. You don't get the negativity that you get with a Hasbro related collecting groups. It's a really positive experience, and I've really enjoyed the journey I've been on with it. So yeah, I'm really jazzed by hot toys and looking forward to where they go next with it. In terms of a favorite, I don't know, I love all 7 of them, to be fair. Probably the Vader, because it was my first one. I'm going to say that one, the 40th anniversary Vader that I got for Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, that's me this year.
Well done, mate. Great year by the sounds of it. Let's go over to Mark then, because Mark, we saw you last year. We'd seen you move into a bit of Lego. We'd seen you'd dabbled in a bit of Black Series. We know you bought a helmet. We know you are a bit of a helmet. What else have you been doing this year?
It's a bit strong.
I can't really top that, mate, to be honest with you. I'll start with Leia Bespin Hot Toys, and I think I've mentioned this on a couple of times now, that this has really sort of set me off along a different path in terms of collecting, because I'm always considered myself more of a vintage collector than anything else, and modern's never really floated my boat up until doing the podcast. And like you say, I bought odd bits and pieces here and there. I've not really concentrated on one line or another. I've just bought things that I like. The Leia Bespin, when I first saw pictures of that, I thought, right, I've got to get it. Anyway, I managed to get one from the local comic shop. And my first purchase of 2022 is another hot toy. I managed to buy the Lando, which was released last year, which I'm very happy about, because Bespin Leia was looking a bit lonely on a shelf by herself. So I thought, what better way than adding Lando to the mix? And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we get a Han Bespin at some point, and that would make a nice little trio. I got the Mandalorian Nerf Amban phase pulse rifle, whatever it's called. That is an absolute beast. I couldn't believe the size of that thing. I mean, it is huge. Obviously, they give you the dimensions on the pre-order and stuff, but until you actually get it in the box, and I will say that I bought this solely on the box artwork. It had nothing to do with the rifle or, being a fan of Nerf rifles or anything like that. I just loved the box. And it arrived, and it's an absolute beast. Very, very cool. Very happy with that. Doesn't seem to be very many on the secondary market at the moment. I'm not sure whether a lot of people sort of went for that. I think for £100, I think it's a lot of Nerf rifle for your money, to be honest with you. Then I got the Boba Fett helmet, which you mentioned. And then I've been buying the Black Series Bad Batch figures for my son, Zach, as a little collection. He collects the odd ones here and there when I take him to a toy fair or whatever, Christmas, birthdays, and make sure he gets 1 or 2. And we just need, we've got Echo. I think we just need... No, we do need Echo. The Echo's the only one that's outstanding now. So we had Wrecker arrive today, believe it or not. So yeah, just one to finish off that run. Tiki Arcade, which obviously we bought when we did the beer show, which I absolutely love. But I'm not like you other lads. I'm sticking to just the one. I do like them, don't get me wrong, but I just haven't got the space to display them. And there was something about that arcade one that really ticked all the boxes for me. And then I think that's about it.
So we've had to push you for your one favourite piece out of all that?
Leia Bespin Hot Toys by Country Mile. I mean, it's a piece of art. It's not a toy. It's not a hot toy. It's a piece of art. That's how I would describe it.
Exactly. Great pickup, mate. Great pickup. I'm going to come to you, Grant.
Every year seems to be pretty good. So modern-wise, stuck with the hot toys. Managed to pick up 1 or 2 hot toys throughout the year. But what was most surprising was the finally bought some Black Series of vintage collection figures, and then started going down the modern 3 3/4 way by cherry picking some of the nice modern figures there. So I didn't expect that, but I think the quality is now there for me, where it probably wasn't back in 2015 regarding the Black Series. The quality of the figures are now there. So it is difficult though, because with that vintage mentality of needing to collect every one and then having to evolve that and think, I don't need to collect every single modern 3 3/4 figure because there's about 5,000 of them. So that's an interesting collecting evolution, just to cherry pick the really good ones that you want. a lot of research now into modern collecting lines, because I left it in 2002. So all of those collecting lines that have happened since then, it's quite overwhelming. But I'm hoping to get some support on that, get some people on the podcast and get them to give some guidance and navigate my way through it. But there's some amazing stuff out there. I don't think it's been better for collectors. I know we're going to get onto the Haslab Rancor later, but I don't think it's ever been this good.
What's your favourite piece, mate, if I had to push you for 2021?
Do you know, my favourite pieces aren't on action figure or toy orientated. So I don't know. I mean, I guess this would be the place to bring it up, but probably some of the episode 1 paperwork and prop stuff. But especially I managed to get. Well, I bought them off eBay, but it turns out that there was the seller was a lady who organised the Odeon London premieres for films, and she had all of the episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3 stuff. Just tickets, passes, all kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff is really hard to get as well. And I was the only bidder on that on eBay and managed to get a folder full of prequel premiere paperwork. But I was dead excited because there was envelopes within envelopes full of stuff, and it just didn't seem like it was ending. So that was probably my most exciting acquisition of 2021.
Yeah, I know you've been delving into lots of that kind of stuff this year. And I mean, you even got your braids, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a Ewan McGregor episode 1 braid and legit Phantom Menace script that was issued the night before the first table reading of Phantom Menace, around about the 17th of June 1997. So you can see the same scripts in the documentary at the beginning, which was on the 2001 DVD. My script's got a number allocated to it, and I'm just trying to find out whose script it belongs to.
Any inklings?
Yeah, George Lucas. Can you imagine if it was, eh? I don't know. I know it's not Natalie Portman, and I know it's not Oliver Ford Davis, because I've got their script numbers, but it could be.
What a random.
I know, right? I know this is what happens when you investigate these things. But I think not many people will have access to the full script of the most anticipated movie of all time. You know, it could be someone from ILM, it could be costumes, or makeup, it could be an actor, or it could be a senior member of the crew or department lead. But I don't know. It'd be nice if it was George Lucas's, but I'm sure his script would be 01.
Well, mate, I'm sure you'll leak bits to us over the course of the year of what you're picking up with that.
Of course, mate, of course.
Yes, look forward to it. And finally, out of you 5, I'm going to come to Jez, because Jez was a bit like Mark, not touching modern, but I think he's finally broken. Why did you break, Jez, would be the first question.
Well, you broke me, Stu. And actually, I want to thank you for breaking me, because I feel like you could look at this and you could be very much like Obi-Wan Kenobi putting his arm around Luke going, that's good. You've taken your first step into a larger world. Because that's what you've done for me. When we were around your house in Midsummer having a bit of a party, and I saw your treasure trove, and primarily the massive rack of Power of the Force 2 carded figures, just made me think, oh, right, okay. So I just started asking questions because I didn't know, the answers. I didn't know why they were on this card and why then they were on this card and the evolution of that. So you and Grant in particular were sort of answering questions, and I was just finding it fascinating. And I was seeing some of those characters which I always, which they had produced back in the day, which they were then producing as Power of the Force. So that just got me thinking, and I was just also looking at price points for vintage, having only been vintage collector, but the vintage market from my point of view is just, I'm just priced out of the market now, and I've probably got most of the things I want anyway. So this looked as an ideal opportunity for me to stay in the collecting game, stay in Star Wars, but still on a much easier budget for me. And I'm sure that there are others who are going to be in a similar situation. Anyway, been purchasing a few tikis along the way, which seems to be the trend. So yeah, I got the Rebo, the Hoth Wampa, the Tauntaun, and the Millennium Falcon, the celebration one. So I've got that sent over. So I was delighted with that. But then Stu, you kind of blew my mind a little bit when you sent me some Power of the Force carded figures. And so we've got Kenobi, Luke X-Wing, Death Star Gunner, Bouche, Leia Bouche, which was really interesting because there's a tidbit for you. When I read the Leia Bouche, it had 2 H's. And I thought to myself, I've always spelt it with 1 H. And I started looking online, and the amount of people who have been spelling it with 1 H, and even the Spanish cards appear to have it with 1 H. However, it does have 2. There you go. Forlom, not Zuckus, Bosk, Tarkin. This is when we then go on to the other figures, like, your Tarkin, your Ewok Village, Sand Trooper, your Rebel Fleet Trooper, and the Italian GIG Imperial Stormtrooper. And it really flicked a switch in me. So I started looking at more and more things. There was I sensed an awakening, and I ended up then buying Shadows of the Empire range, which came out in, I think, 96. Bought Chewbacca in Bounty Hunter disguise, which just looks very strange. And I then started going slightly more wacky. Again, still staying low on budget, with the exception of, in August, I ordered, still being a Luke X-Wing collector at heart, I ordered the Gentle Giant Luke X-Wing bust, which should be arriving this month. And that is absolutely gorgeous. So that's the bust, which is set on a sort of, well, I'll describe it when it comes through. It's on a fascinating X-Wing sort of R2-D2 combo, but it just, the pictures just look absolutely outstanding. And then it follows from, I've got Black Series Fett. So there you go. Now you've got me not only on Power of the Force 2 and stuff, but I've got a Black Series Fett. And I've just purchased, and it's just arrived today, a Power of the Force 2 Tri-Logo Fett. And also Last Jedi Vintage Collection Rey on card, and a Black Series Laurie Bliss. So, gents, I really don't know what you've done to me. You've really dragged me away from my natural sort of course. But it's the books as well, because of book month. You guys just took me out of my sort of standard swim lane and opened my eyes again. So I'm now massively getting into the books, which aren't modern, but it's part of that. I've now just today, because of, if you recall, our book month when we had the character competition, and we were then given figures from the expanded universe and deciding on which figure should come back into Star Wars canon. And it was my figure which I was championing, which was Nominor, who won. I've just received him today in the post on card. So Star Wars Expanded Universe Nominor, and it just looks absolutely outstanding. So for me, in the last probably 3 months of the entire year, it's become a lot more broad, I would say, and I'm pleased about that.
I think you just said it there, though, didn't you? I think it's a way of collecting again and enjoying Star Wars at a snip of the price, being able to delve in and out and not having to make a massive purchase all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really grateful for it. Just, I had these 2 little packages come in the post today, and I had a smile on my face, and it was all really, really good. So funny old thing. Carded Fett arrived today. Yes, it wasn't a 1983 or a 1980. It was it was a Power of the Force 2, but it's a Tri-Logo Fett. It looks pretty cool. Don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'll keep it on the card. Happy jazz. So thank you to Generation Skywalker for opening my eyes.
Sounds like a modern Fett focus starting there. There's several hot toy Fets, so there's your price. Jez, what was your favourite piece?
It's really tricky because the Luke X-Wing, the Gentle Giant, I think will be, but it's not arrived yet, so I'm not going to call that. I was thinking about the Nominor, but in fact, I think it was the Power of the Force stuff which you sent me, and if I could pinpoint it, it's probably something as random as Rebel Fleet Trooper, because that was one of the that was one of the characters which we didn't get, or the Leia in the Ewok Village. I could say Tarkin, but that'd be an obvious one. But something like that, the Rebel Fleet Trooper on Power of the Force, something so innocent and random like that, I think is actually lit the spark. My goodness, how many quotes am I getting from Star Wars tonight?
Very good.
What about you, Stu?
Obviously, we've mentioned my collecting room. Obviously, that happened this year, and actually, it's really helped focus my collecting. So I'm actually having a good sort out. But I've delved quite a bit. Bought quite a lot of Black Series. Bought quite a bit of vintage collection, which I don't actually want. I've got Luke's helmet, which has made me want to go and get a few more helmets again. Tiki, I think I added 8 or 9 this year. Added all sorts of bits. Obviously, the EU stuff. We did the top 10 countdown. I've bought 4 of those figures from that countdown. Loving them. The figure, I can't remember his name now. Craig might be able to help me out. But the one with Vader's broken arm coming out of his chest. Brilliant figure. Do you remember what his name is, Craig?
Something Kofi, wasn't it? Kofi Annan.
Yes, Kofi Annan. That's the one. That's what Jez kept calling him on the show. So that will do. I've got some big Lego this year. I've got the UCS Falcon, which I still haven't built yet, and the Cantina, and some busts, and the probe droid. So little projects for me to do this winter. But there was some few bits that I've looked at for quite a while. The Ayla Secura Gentle Giant bust, been after for a long while. Finally managed to pick that up. Love it. I've wanted the Leia and R2 Gentle Giant maquette for ages. Finally managed to pick that up. Love it. But without doubt, my favourite modern bit this year is thanks to you five guys. That sign for my bar. I will talk about it a bit more in the Farthest From show coming up after this, but I love that, boys. I cannot thank you all enough. It is just amazing, and I can't wait to get my bar straight next year and choose its perfect place, bit of lighting above it. It will all be on show for when you all arrive next time. Yeah, I win that competition, I think, this year.
Boba Fett was a man with no name kind of character, lone gunslinger when I was a kid. You didn't know his face, you didn't know who he was.
You know, the idea of somebody wearing Mandalorian armor is clearly influenced by Boba Fett. So bringing in Boba Fett felt very right.
With the Book of Boba Fett, we're going to find out where he's been and about how he's changing.
What happened in those years between then and the end of Return of the Jedi? And then also seeing what would Boba Fett be like now.
John's story structure was really brilliant in that it was just overflowing with all things cool.
There's a rawness to everything. That's what I love about it. I think that's what gives it its authenticity.
There's a little bit of fun in there as well, a lot of action, drama, and it's going to be exciting for the fans to see. It's going to be some journey.
Dan, last year we talked about numbers of Black Series and Vintage Collection, what had been released. There was a lot of moaning that the Vintage Collection in particular wasn't getting new sculpts. They're all re-releases. Or what are the numbers this year for the Black Series with releases, announcements, repacks?
By my reckoning, there were 92 figures announced in 2021, of which 31 are brand new figures. Now, that's a similar sort of numbers to what we saw last year, 90 figures on the Black Series. But the original figures were only 41, so we've seen a drop-off there. So we've seen more gaming figures, more archive collection, 2 waves of that. The Lucasfilm 50, the majority of which were rework figures. So we saw the Power of the Force figures. We saw vintage Star Wars figures on cards that have been painted to look like vintage figures. So it was an Obi-Wan, a Greedo, and several others. There were Clone Wars card backs, Episode 1 card backs, another wave of holiday special figures, as well as another wave of credit collection for the Mandalorian figures that they released. So we saw lots of new Mando figures. Rogue One got some love, so we had an entire wave of Rogue One figures, including several new figures. So we saw a Antok Merrick, the Bodhi Rook which was new, as well as, I can't think of his name, Jyn Erso's dad. We saw a figure of him as well. So yeah, there was lots of new stuff coming out, but amongst a whole lot of repacks and repaints.
Galen.
So there you go. Thank you.
Pleasure.
That's my summing up of the Black Series this year. Lots of repacks and repaints.
Yeah, we're seeing quite a bit of that. What about the Vintage Collection? Because this is, last year, obviously, we had Christopher Cook come on to discuss. You know, they'd done their petition to Hasbro for more new sculpts. Did we get it?
So I believe so. So last year, Craig reported that 29 figures were released in 2020. This year, there's been 70 announcements, 29 of which I believe are new figures. So we're still seeing a whole lot of carbonized and special edition figures. So we've seen Lucasfilm 50 figures. So we've seen similar to what we've seen in the Black Series with the droids and several other lines within that. They've released the 92 campaign, which is Hasbro's gone crazy with. So we've seen new Emperors, Bib Fortuna, Ewoks, Tusken Raiders, Death Star droids, etc. all getting releases. Like I said before, more Carbonized figures, we're seeing lots more ARC Troopers. So they've taken the ARC Trooper figure that they brought out a year or so ago for the free pack they did, and they've run with that. So 5 more ARC Troopers, loads new Mando figures, and now we've seen a couple of Book of Boba Fett figures that have come up for pre-order. And we've seen the new deluxe packaging line. So where I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, if you've seen the photos, but it's essentially vintage style packaging with no bubble. So you get the racetrack on the front of the box, an image of the toy in action. So kind of like in the style we see in the vintage play sets, where you've got the actual figure surrounded by some sort of diorama, and I think we see it really on the play sets and the vehicle packaging. So we've seen sets like that before that were released back in the 2010s. So there was a Death Star scanning crew and some Ewok sets, and obviously we've seen more of the retro collection as well. So we've seen this second series of Mando figures announced, as well as them continuing this prototype figure line. So they've released a Boba Fett and a Stormtrooper this year. So yeah, lots of love for the vintage collection at the moment. Lots of activity on Facebook pages, and I'm getting a lot more positive vibes coming from it. So it feels like people are somewhat more satisfied than they were in 2020.
And hot toy numbers.
Hot toys, so there was 30 new releases by my reckoning, 14 of which, if you only count each new figure once, so where there's a deluxe figure or a repaint, I think we've got 14 new figures there. So of the 30 announcements, 22 of them were Mandalorian related, and of the remaining 8, there was 1 Rogue One, 1 Expanded Universe, 2 Bad Batch, 2 Return of the Jedi, and 2 Clone Troopers. So nothing released for the prequels or the sequels, and nothing for The New Hope or Empire Strikes Back announced.
Yeah, interesting. Well, has there been any sequel stuff, even in Vintage Collection and Black Series?
Nothing at all. No sequel.
Nothing at all. It's quite an interesting stance, isn't it?
It was similar last year. I think when we did it last year, certainly on the Black Series, I think there was 3 figures I called out on the Black Series last year. So they've really switched that tap off, I think.
Interesting. Watch this space, see if we get anything in the next 12 months. And no doubt Dan will keep the list rather than having to panic, do it 2 days before recording.
I will now. I will.
Now, Dan, it's been 3 months since we recorded a standard Modern Way show. We normally just give the announcements of what's come out. In that time, there has been a vast amount of announcements. There's no way we can cover them all. It would be very listy. So rather than doing that, I've asked you to just give us an overview of the highlights from those 3 months, what we've missed, and what there is to look forward to.
Yeah, so it was a scary list. So I was actually putting that list together to preempting a regular show. So I did have a lot of that listed. So I'd say around 50% of what's been announced this year was announced after we did our last Modern Way. So there's a ton of stuff that got announced. There was a Fan First Wednesday around the same time as our last show came out, or our last full show, followed by PulseCon, which I believe was in November. So in the Black Series, as well as waves of the holiday repaints, the archive, the credit collection, we also got new Mando figures. So there was a MiGs that's been announced, the Client, Deluxe Cobb Vamp, a Republic Security Droid, a Nomad Boba Fett, as well as a figure in Dan figure that's coming, and a Princess Leia in her Ewok village outfit. So some deep cuts there, and not the normal layers that we would see. So some good stuff coming out there. In the vintage collection, they've started bringing out these troop building sets now. So I don't know if you guys have seen any of these, but they come in a small, almost like a white mailer box. They come with 4 figures, and they're all unique in some way. So we've got a Stormtrooper set of 4 figures, Rebel Fleet Troopers, and a set of 4 Shore Troopers. So they've all been released and sold out instantly. People have gone crazy for those. So there's obviously a lot of troop builders out there. We saw the droids figures on vintage card backs that were released. So there was an R2D2, a C3PO, and a Boba Fett, as well as another wave of Mandalorian carbonized figures. More figures in the Collect the 92. So I think when I was going through my summing up of the year, I kind of reeled some of those off. So that's continuing. And some interesting reissues as well. So the Ahsoka Tano that we previously discussed on previous shows, hitting the £500 to £600 back in the summer, it's VC 102, is being reissued. And it's really interesting. If you look at the prices on eBay now, they have really taken a dive. So I think there's one at the minute, it's about to end, and it's not got any bids on it. I think the seller's got it up for 250 quid. So they've obviously taken a bit of a hit there. In terms of play sets, the Navarro play set's been announced. So they're releasing that with a Mandalorian Death Trooper and a second wave of the Mando collection, like we've already mentioned. On the hot toys, not a huge amount of activity there, thankfully. So we were pretty much up to date by the last show. Fennec Shan's been announced in the last couple of weeks, as well as a couple of clone troopers. So there's a clone trooper Vaughn and a clone commander Jesse that have both been announced. So that's my summing up of the last 3 months.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. No doubt we'll mention a few bits and pieces in a minute. What we're doing here tonight is look at 2021 as a whole. I think one of the biggest things this year that happened in Star Wars collecting was the massive Haslab Rancor fail. Now, we have mentioned the Rancor in previous shows, but obviously since we last recorded, this did fail in quite a spectacular way. So let's just delve back into that and give a bit of discussion on why that failed. So first of all, Jez, can you give us an overview of what happened, look at what the figures were for the backers? And Haslab obviously realised something was going badly wrong with their very late announcement of a Rancor Keeper. Can you give us a bit of an update?
Yeah, sure. So if we go back to that previous episode when we were discussing it, I don't want to say I told you so, but let's face it, Malakili isn't the only person crying over the Rancor now, all right? Because, yeah, this all went south. So, as you know, the whole crowd-funded project was due to run from October the 22nd to December the 6th. That didn't need to be final because Haslab have made exceptions in the past. And in fact, they have extended things in the past to get them over the line. Must be aware of that. So the plan was, October the 22nd to December the 6th. If successful, we'll begin shipping in spring 23. I mean, that is a long time to wait. And also what was also going on at this time, this wasn't the only thing which Haslab were pushing out. They also had a G.I. Joe jet called the Sky. Come on, guys, jump in. It was called the Sky Streaker or something like that. And there was also a Ghostbusters proton pack going on. So there were three different things happening at the same time, or, you know, for people who would be the sort of people who would actually be going for this. So timing wise, it wasn't necessarily great, but they put it out there. And initially the backers were going well. And what they said is they wanted 9,000, right? 9,000 was their goal to get this over the line. And from then on, they'd have other reach targets or tiers. So we will jump ahead to those now. And you still need to convince me of this whole tier system, because quite clearly it's not a brilliant system, because it fell short this time. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. It actually fell short, not by much. It fell short of 467 short of the mark. So it didn't reach its 9,000 ultimately. But the tiers which they had after that were, if we got to 11,000 backers, you'd get a certain item. If we then got to 13,500 backers, get something else, 16,000 backers, and then up to 19,000 backers. You know, is this just a greed thing? Further discussion is warranted, I'm sure. But it started off going okay. Then they did a live stream. So again, it was another Fan First Friday. So it was on the 19th of November. You had two designers and two people from marketing did a 49-minute live stream with live comments on the right-hand side. Now, these comments you should see, because people were just getting impatient. They were getting fed up. You know, it was going okay, but they hadn't got over the first hurdle yet. They hadn't got up to their 9,000. This live stream went on for 49 minutes. It was then when they started to announce the tiers that actually, instead of having a positive effect, they started losing backers. Now, they went from just over 5,100, it was about 5,116. Within an hour, they had lost 100. Within a couple of days, they had lost 500 backers from the live stream. So 10%, it had the opposite effect, what they wanted. And so they were losing out big time. So it absolutely looked like they weren't going to get over the line because, and we'll come on to it, the goals, the stretches, the tiers weren't what the fans wanted. Yeah, the fans were quite clear. The collectors were clear in the comments. We want Ula. We want the Rancor Keeper. What's the point of having a Rancor if you don't have the Rancor Keeper? We don't want repacks. We don't need this. We don't need that. So it was, I believe it was around about the 30th of November. So really close to the deadline. We're talking 6 days away. They sent out a tweet and put it on their website saying, we are now going to give a a keeper. So if you don't mind, it says, we really appreciate all the feedback we've received. In an effort to make the Haslab Rancor the best possible dream product, with that, we realise we can't leave the most dangerous creature, the Rancor, roaming the galaxy without his keeper. We will be adding a fully newly tooled Star Wars The Black Series Malakili figure to the base offering, funding at 9,000 units. Uncarded and ready for action. This figure comes complete with his unique gaffy stick inspired by Star Wars Return of the Jedi. This figure is in an active development, and we will share renders as part of our backer updates if the project successfully moves into production. So, absolute recognition of damage limitation there. They realise, people were putting in comments, fire these people. Haslab, you are ruining this. I have now just withdrawn my backing. So it was an absolute PR disaster. But I'll just remind you again, what did I say? It was 400. So I had 400 short they were. I mean, if they had just extended it by another day or so, maybe it would have got over the line. 467 short. There were thousands of people who wanted this to happen, but Haslab just couldn't sort it out.
But if they had hit that number, none of those tiers would have been involved. And
absolutely.
I mean, the tier system appears to be what made this fail. Now, Mark, Jess has just mentioned the Rancor Keeper, but what were the other tiers, and why were people so upset with them?
What I will say is, with these Haslab projects, I think a lot of people tend to be in right from the outset, whether the tiers are any good or not. When the Razor Crest was mentioned, I was all in. The tiers meant absolutely nothing to me. I wanted the ship. The tiers were a bonus. It wasn't a deal breaker for me. And I think with this particular item, maybe that's probably one of the reasons why it's failed, but I'll come to that. Anyway, I'll come to the Rancor Keeper in a minute, but the first one, 11,000, you got Power of the Force card with coin with the Gamorrean Guard figure, which again was a figure that's already been released, so it's just a card that's changed. Right from the outset, a lot of collectors sort of scratching theirs thinking, this doesn't look particularly good. A lot of complaints about that, just a repackaged figure. So the second tier, which came in at 13,500, which was the bones. There was a human skull, a wampa skull, I think, or a tortoise skull, a few other bits and bobs, and a cardboard backdrop. And I think at this point, you could tangibly see the atmosphere around the whole Haslab project change with regards to fans' reaction. The backdrop, for instance, should be coming with the box anyway. It's a cheap cardboard backdrop. This isn't like a plastic thing with a gate and opening gate or anything like that. It's a cheap cardboard backdrop. It costs nothing to put that in the box right from the word go. And I think that got a lot of people's backs up. The bones, what a cheap thing to bung in. I'm not sure what you can do with that. So then the third tier at 16,000 backers, which again, you're talking about a lot of people ordering this. You'd expect something really quite special at this point. And everybody's shouting at the computers, Rancor Keeper, Ula. We want one of those two things. What do they go and do? We're going to give you Silicious Crumb on a mini card. I understand that the Silicious Crumb is actually quite a hard one to get. It's quite sought after because it came with a Comic-Con exclusive, I think, Comic-Con exclusive set. So it is quite sought after, quite valuable. But Silicious Crumb didn't really have any direct connection with the Rancor. Ular and the Rancor Keeper did. So at this point, why aren't we at 16,000 backers getting what people are asking for? Unbelievable. Anyway,
I don't know whether you saw, Mark, on one of the groups, someone that worked for Hasbro had come on there and said that there is no chance in this day and age you'd get an Ula figure again at this moment in time. She was clearly not on the table at any point for discussion with Hasbro.
I don't understand the logic behind that, because she exists in the film. You can't sort of.
No, I totally agree with you, but
brush over it. It's crazy.
I totally agree with you about Silicious
why
Crumb.
people are getting angry about something that they should be getting. Why are we not getting that figure? What was the reasoning? Because of the word slave was involved.
Is that the only evidence that's come out to suggest that Ula Hatslayer Leia won't be produced? It's just from this tweet or whatever from a Hasbro individual. There's no official line or anything like that, because I'm just trying to work out where this narrative has come from.
there was just this comment saying I work for Hasbro, and there was, at this moment in time, there was no way you'd get a figure of Ula. So
that's madness. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, Mark. This doesn't really make any sense to me at all.
No, well, I mean, I think when you start making comments like that, you can see why people are getting their backs up. And even at the fourth tier, a Luke Jedi with photoreal sculpt, again on a Power of the Force card, it clearly wasn't enough. And then obviously it seemed like Hasbro were backing down. Well, seemingly backing down, if that's the best phrase to use, and decided, yes, okay, you can have a Rancor Keeper, but you won't be getting it on a card, you're getting a baggie, and they were saying ready for action. Well, no, I'm sorry, that's half-arsed in my opinion. It's too little too late, and I'll come to that point in a minute. So, potential reasons it failed. There are several. There isn't just one particular reason it failed. I think there's, judging by the comments, the feedback, the plethora of YouTube videos there are covering this and why it failed, and seemingly why fans are almost celebrating the fact that it failed. Some fans are celebrating anyway. Was number one, price too high. $350. When you compare that to the Razor Crest, which was the same price, didn't seem like a great value for money, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's. I think if they'd pitched it slightly less, maybe $250, they might have seen a bit more of a positive reaction towards it. I mean, the Rancor's a great looking thing, you know, it would have been quite imposing in anybody's collection. But I think at $350, it was a lot of money for what you were getting, in my opinion. And also 9,000 backers. They'd raised the number of backers, minimum number of backers, considerably from the Razor Crest. Why was that? Was that because they were thinking that, oh, well, you know, we can get more money out of this, not have to cut our profit, so to speak? Because on the Razor Crest, the number of backers was a lot less. I think it was about 5,000, wasn't it? Whereas on the Rancor, it was 9,000. And to me, that speaks of a bit of greed, if I'm honest. So, yeah, number one, price, too high. Number two, nobody was asking for it. Nobody was asking for a Rancor. When it was said that it was going to be a creature, well, there's only going to be sort of 2 or 3 different creatures it could possibly be. And Rancor was top of the list, and everybody was sort of scratching their head. Well, Rancor, yeah, okay. Kind of see it, but do we really want a Rancor? There wasn't any petition for it. There wasn't any kind of fan base around getting a Black Series Rancor. So, yeah, a bit strange. The Rancor's been released sort of a few times before. Now, if you go and look at Haslab projects like the Razor Crest and the Jabba Sails Barge, these are things that are pretty exclusive. You know, we've never had Jabba Sail Barge. The Razor Crest at that scale is, you know, that's the only time we're ever going to get it. So people wanted those items, whereas this was a bit different. So, yeah, I think, you know, when you're talking about desire, the Rancor just wasn't up there, in my opinion. So that's another one. Reason 3, the incentives, as we've discussed, weren't really hitting the mark. The recarded figures, everybody seemed to be asking for Ula. I know we've just mentioned that, you know, somebody said that it was never going to make, but that's what people wanted. People wanted an Ula figure. They wanted a Rancor Keeper above all else. Those two things. And I think if they'd have given a Rancor Keeper, mentioned that right from the outset, even at the $350 price tag, they might have got this past the line easier than the way they were going. They seemed to make a really hard job out of it right from the outset. They only had to go online and look at the feedback and some of the comments that people were making. So, hang on a minute, we might have missed the mark here. We might have to rethink about what we're doing. And a Rancor Keeper in a baggie right at the last minute just wasn't going to cut it. Like I said before, a lot of people tend to be in on these Haslab projects right from the outset. They want the item, the teaser, a bonus. Whereas I think with the Razor Crest, when they were mentioning the teaser, quite cool. There's a couple of nice figures in there. But for the Rancor, I think they had to push the boat out a bit. I just don't think the incentives were incentivizing people to buy it. So that's number 3. Number 4. Still no sign of the Razor Crest at this point. Still delayed. Yes, I know we've had a pandemic, and you know it seems like everybody and his brother is is delaying this, or they're delaying that, or they can't get this over from this country and they're having trouble shipping from here to there. Yeah, okay, we understand that, but this is Hasbro we're dealing with. This is a major company, and this is not a two-man Kickstarter set. This is something really that, you know, got loads of people behind it. They've got the power, the machinery to be able to produce these things. And I just think, you know, $350 at a time when they were also releasing, like as Jez has mentioned, the backpack for the Ghostbusters, you know, the Proton Pack, and the G.I. Joe plane. People don't just collect Star Wars. A lot of collectors like to dip into different lines. So you've got 3 items there that Haslab are offering. What are you going to pick? I know what I'd pick. It would have been the backpack, the Proton Pack, right from the outset, because it was just a cooler looking thing. Much more interesting than the Rancor. I'm not a G.I. Joe collector, so that sort of negates that. But when you offer people that choice, you know, $350 is a lot of money to a lot of people, and they have to choose very wisely what they're going to go for. So I think that did play a small part in people voting with their feet. And the fifth and final one, and I think this is just as important, is the scale. You know, the Black Series scale. It's a big thing. You know, these Haslab projects are cornerstone pieces for people's collections. You know, people build collections around the Jabba sail barge. That is a statement piece. It takes up an awful lot of room, and rightly so, because it's a beautiful looking object. You know, you can put a really cool display on. You can interact with it. It's, you know, it's fantastic. Same with the Razor Crest, I'm sure. When we all get those, we'll be seeing some fantastic dioramas being created. The thing with these is they are based on the 3 3/4 inch scale. And now that is going back to how Star Wars started as a toy. That's the scale that you're dealing with. And that's where people's collections are based on. People have limited amount of space to collect and to display. Something like the Rancor, if you're then going to start building a diorama around that, that's an awful lot of space that you're going to have to dedicate to this thing. Also, what I've noticed with other Black Series vehicles and creatures and stuff, they just don't sell very well. If you look at things like the TIE Fighter from the sequel films, the huge black TIE Fighter from the Force Awakens, those were on clearance. After a short amount of time, they couldn't sell them because they were that big. And the same with the G-Back. The G-Back, again, they ended up being a real hard sell for retailers. So is it a surprise that the Rancor didn't quite make it? I don't know. I think they were up against it right from the outset. Perhaps a bit more thought, a little less greed, and probably a bit more in the box, as it were, might have seen the Rancor be a success rather than the failure that it was.
I saw on several groups with regards to the Rancor, people trying to get like a movement going to not back it, which I thought was really strange. I thought, let's not back it. It will send a sign to Haslab. And you just kind of like, surely just let people decide what they want to collect rather than a movement to stop it.
Well, I think this goes back to what I've said before about things like the carbonized figures and the repainted figures. It's just a cheap way of getting more money out of people with the same molds. What is the point of the carbonized figures to me? It doesn't make any sense. And it's a cash grab. That's how I always see those types of things where they just slap a new paint job on it. Like those Christmas things. Bloody hell, they're awful. But the carbonized things, they don't make any sense. It's just cash. I know. How can we wring a few more quid out of the same molds out of the collectors? Treating people, fans, collectors, people in retail like idiots. And I think a lot of people probably think, well, no, we're not going to stand for this anymore. You can't do this. So whilst it makes no odds to me, because I wasn't going to back it anyway, it's not my thing, I can understand some people's opinion that, no, we're not going to back this. We're going to vote with the feet and we're going to be vocal about it.
So, Craig, that brings us on to Haslab with the Black Series. Is a Black Series scale suited for Haslab projects?
Well, I think everybody's made really good points on this topic so far. I think, my understanding and the way they've pitched Haslab is that it's supposed to be this platform where the team there can really push things and show off their creativity and have more of a two-way dialogue with fans, which, you know, the normal retail process doesn't allow. I don't think any of that is particularly dependent on scale. And I know that the question alludes to, and Mark's already brought it up, you know, the fact that designing toys to a 6-inch scale are physically larger. But I think, you know, on the evidence of the katana, you know, if people think something is cool enough, they will find the space, they will make the room. So I think it's a contributing factor, but I don't think it's a huge one, especially when you look at things like the Ghostbusters Proton Pack, which is effectively 1-to-1 scale. It's a role-playing toy. It's a prop replica. So, you know, I think it's about how creative they are with these things. And we discussed lots of other cool ways they could do, like take sections of an environment and scale that up. So lots of kind of great ideas are kicking around when we first discussed this. None of us have had the call yet from Haslab. Have you, Mark? I've not. They don't need us on.
I won't do after tonight, mate. That's for sure.
True enough. So, you know, as Jess says, thousands of people wanted this. It's just a shame this first Black Series project wasn't particularly creative or groundbreaking, and they just fudged the release of it.
So, Grant, then, what do you think of the item? I mean, you've already told us tonight that you cherry pick your modern items. Did this work for you? Do you think it was over-engineered? What are your thoughts?
I actually just chatted to a friend online. He's got links to Hasbro, and he says that not that he can make any official point of it, but there is a directive from Disney not to make slave action figures. But obviously I can't verify that, but I trust this guy 100%. Which clearly doesn't make any sense. In regards to the figure, so, I mean, it was 42 inches wide, 27 inches high. It's an obvious choice. If you're going to make a Black Series figure, I think this is the most obvious choice to go down. I'm probably not the guy to ask, to be honest with you, Stu, because I'm quite new to this modern world. I've said to you guys over the last couple of weeks, by purchasing TVC and Black Series figures, I've been shocked at the amount of articulation. Obviously, articulation is a big selling point, and if they sat down in a boardroom and said that they were going to make a Rancor, they were going to make it as articulate as possible. So the head articulates, the mouth articulates. You've got 45 different points of articulation in it, which is probably more than the Phil Tippett stop motion puppet. So, you know, the fingers and the wrists and all that sort of works. You've got the butterfly joints, you know, it tilts. There's 900 different kind of decoration parts to it. So, I mean, I think they probably all sat around the table and said, yeah, this is a fully articulate Rancor. I think the problem that they've got is by adding this tier system that you've basically invited every customer to be a chef in your kitchen. And I think that's complicated things more. So from my point of view, a lot of people, like Mark's already said, you know, a lot of people complaining about the campaigns or, you know, repacked figures and the tier systems. For me, I'm new to this. I thought the figure was, if you want a fully articulated figure, this is probably what you'd be looking for. But perhaps the guys are right. Perhaps TVC is best for this, for doing vehicles, and maybe Black Series isn't made for this. Just a weird way of marketing and selling an item. I think it seems weird that they chose 4 tier points for these Haslabs. Why not just 2? You know, why is it stuck to 4? Maybe you could have done the other 2 figures. But I mean, it's not really for me, mate. And a lot of people said $350 is a lot. I will say though that it does seem, I mean, I prefer to see clarity, some kind of evidence of this, but the idea of not having, I don't understand why they won't. The Ula figure, you could already use the slave layer that was released in 2013 as a base point. You'd have to change the head sculpt a little bit, but you could probably, you know, use that figure or some of the parts of that figure. So the idea of not having a Ula or a slave layer figure is completely lost on me when there's so many other examples of slave-orientated figures. Does that mean that there's going to be no young Anakin figure or Shimmy Skywalker figure?
Lobot.
Yeah, they just released Lobot, you know. So Lobot is, you know, defined as a slave on the TVC line. So where do we draw the line?
But he's not a semi-naked female in chains, is he?
So it's the objectification of women that is the issue, that more than slavery.
Maybe. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I think you know.
No.
Figures being cried out there, but I mean, we are in a very woke. Let's not get into all this, but we are in that kind of time at the moment. It doesn't surprise me.
It was just 467 short. Now, if you think about where they were when they did their live stream, where it all went wrong and they lost 10% of the people and dropped down to about 4,700, certainly less than 5,000 people. Come the end, they were up at about 8,500. So they had made significant gains of those people who had FOMO, were like, oh, no, actually, I can see I might be able to make some money in this, like everything else in Razorcraft and the Katana. Oh, so, people were backing it. So at that rate, going from 4,700 to 8,500 in a very short space of time, the fact that they just fell 467 short of the mark, even though the tiers were wrong, maybe if those tiers were in a slightly different order, put the bones last, put the Salacious Crumb. I mean, ridiculous live stream. I mean, one of the points which they made was it's now Salacious B Crumb rather than Salacious Crumb. Seriously, do me a favor. If they just had a little bit more thought with regards to the order, or maybe just saying, right, what we're going to do is we're going to, as well as giving you Rancor Keeper, we are now going to give you the Luke Jedi at the base. If they had held on for an extra day or so, I mean, that when we look at it, right, only one other Haslab item, which was a Cookie Monster doll, didn't fund. Right, only one other, the Cookie Monster doll. And there was one campaign, which was the Transformers Unicron. Got an extension. That got an extension of 45 days. This is the holiday season when they've got 3 different products on the go at the moment. It seems like the whole brains behind this, the whole marketing, was led by the same people who did the marketing for Solo. And that's all I've got to say about it.
No, I agree. And what doesn't make sense as well, if you've got the Christmas period, you haven't received the Razor Crest yet, and then next year you've got the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, and currently you've got the Book of Boba Fett, which the TV spots are hinting that there's something in the Rancor pit. So why not do it now?
Absolutely.
I think you made some good points, Jez. I think, to me, give us the Gam Guard and Luke Jedi with the Rancor. That's the famous scene. And then make Ula and the Rancor Keeper the two tiers. It just makes perfect sense because people want those 2 figures because they're not out there.
Yeah, and if you get some bones at the end, brilliant.
Dan, you posted some pictures up in our thread. So the Funko Pop Rancor that comes with Luke and Ula, is that recent?
I've just quickly Googled that to try and find your answer with regards to the Rancor, Luke Skywalker and Slave Ula Funko Pop. And I've just gone online, and actually the first review is by Dan, a verified buyer. I wonder if it is him.
No, it's not me.
I don't think that's a new set.
Do you not?
No.
The Tiki mug with the Ula's recent, though, isn't it? That's Celebration, wasn't it? It's Chicago, I think. Oh, no, the later one was Ula.
What they're essentially saying, it's cancel culture seeping into Star Wars.
But Marvel, right, owned by Disney, and I appreciate it'd be different brand managers working on that team, but you look at some of the action figures created based on, people like X-Men, looking at Emma Frost. I mean, they are as scantily clad and as kinky as heck. So, that argument doesn't really ring true if you sort of take into account other things that company's producing.
That pop set came out in 2015 with Ula, Rancor, and Luke.
They had the Black Series Leia about a year before that, didn't they? So this is a recent change.
Yeah. But also, you're right, Grant, as well. You just mentioned the price and right before Christmas, or perhaps it was Jez, but that is a massive thing, right? You're asking people to pay up front for this. It's £330, yet they're not going to see it until 2023. So at least 18 months in the future, and you're talking big money to pay out on an item you're not going to see for a long while. I'm surprised it's not a deposit, a non-refundable deposit, of £100, which you then pay the balance of.
Do you know what? I'll leave this here, but I'd be interested to find this out now, if it is, because it's obviously, I don't think it's about slavery. I think the slavery element come in because of the Lego with the Boba Fett Slave One ship and the possible renaming of that being a fire spray. But if you look, I mean, the last film that Lucasfilm released, Solo, you had all those Wookiee slaves in that on that Kessel planet. So I don't think that's the angle. I think the angle must be, if it's true that there has been a directive, that it's probably something along the lines of the objectification of women. I'd be fascinated to find out if that's true and when it will change back.
It's funny how you got Twi'leks in the new episode of Book of Boba Fett offering to polish his helmet, but there you go.
Yeah, there's a half-naked bloke and a half-naked woman coming to...
Isn't it the idea of that being like a brothel or something?
Oh, okay, I got that impression.
Yeah, that's the impression I got, like an upscale brothel. And she was like, that one Twi'lek was like from Striptease, was like a madam.
It's just moving the goalposts as and when it seemed fit. It doesn't seem very consistent to me.
Yeah, you could, but you can't. I mean, that's the thing I was getting to, Mark, is where do you draw the line? Because if you start changing the goalposts all the time, it ceases to become Star Wars.
Well, again, you find yourself becoming a rather than entertainment, it's almost a political thing, isn't it?
Propaganda.
That's not why I watch Star Wars. I watch Star Wars for exactly the opposite of that.
Just on the tiers though, the one thing they've done differently in the past that they didn't do here was the tiers were only revealed as the goals were hit. So we were getting like weekly almost updates on the Razor Crest when it was happening. You know, it's like if you get to this, we're going to reveal the next tier, and if you get to this, there wasn't this all or nothing. Right, this is all the tiers. So you didn't have that anticipation. There was no build up to it. It felt like they were in panic mode through the whole thing.
The tier system worked on the Razor Crest though. They came out with good tiers, didn't they?
I'd already bought it though. I think if they smashed through the target within, it was like 48 hours. It was backed. It was like there was none of that, and it was just to encourage more people on. It just felt like they went into
2 days after they
took
your money, they blew it up.
Well, yeah, but I still haven't seen it yet, so it might be blown up somewhere.
It's just tiers. Are they shot themselves in the foot of something that originally might be a good idea, but if you continue it, the expectation that people will be greedy. I think the word greedy was used earlier, and have that expectation, and if those expectations aren't met, nothing is going to be.
But I think the product let it down. I think if that Rancor had been, I honestly, I know you spoke about it then in the articulation. I didn't think it was a great looking piece. I was never going to buy it, right? So it's difficult for me to say. But looking at it, I didn't like the way the plastic of the face and then the rest of the body just didn't match up. It looked like it was wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't think it looked good at all. I wouldn't pay $250 for that.
I totally agree. I think the vintage one looked just as good as the one that cost $150.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, let's come to you then. What impact do you think this will have on future Star Wars Haslab items, or will it not?
I think they're going to have to take a long, hard look at themselves. I don't think we'll see a Black Series Haslab for a little while. Might be wrong. They might have something up their sleeve for Book of Boba Fett or Kenobi or Andor when it comes out later in the year. But I think they will go back to vintage collection or a prop size replica of something. I don't think we'll see a Black Series scale offering for a while now because of it. It's been such a fallout, and I know Jez is saying it was only 400 backers left to go. I think they just pulled the plug on it. They thought happy days, they haven't backed it, let's put this to bed. Yeah. And the reports I read, as soon as it hit midnight and it didn't go through, people were getting email notifications saying their money had been refunded. It was literally instant. They just didn't give it any opportunity to breathe or try and come back from it. It was like, that's it, it's dead, finish it, cut it off. So I think, we're not going to see. I think we'll see more Haslab. I think that's not going to go away. I think they've had some successful campaigns. Obviously, the Razor Crest, we haven't got them yet, but it's seen as a massive success. The Proton Pack as well. That's gone down well. So I think we'll see more, but I just don't think we'll see Black Series for a while unless they've got something. Someone's had a bright idea somewhere. Maybe they should listen to our last episode.
Mark, I mean, a few of us are back to the Razor Crest. We've just mentioned, money being paid up front, which is taken straight away for the Razor Crest. The Razor Crest is now delayed until the end of January. And I know there's a couple shipped, but us in the UK, we're certainly not going to get it before the end of January. That makes it 4 months overdue already. How can they be so late delivering something which has so much planning and it's so in advance? How can they go about doing that? And do you think that will affect people backing future projects?
As I mentioned previously, I think it has had a very, very small sort of reasoning for some people maybe not backing an item like the Rancor. Maybe they should have waited for the Razor Crest to start landing in people's, doorways before releasing the Rancor details. It seems a bit much to be asking people to pay so far in advance for something that they're not going to get for a year and a half. I think with relation to the Razor Crest, I think Haslab might have been taken aback slightly by the numbers involved. They probably weren't expecting so many to be on board with it. And I know that they put a limit of just 2 Razor Crest per person. But even so, the number of people actually buying them was just incredible, far outweighing the previous one, Jabba Sail Barge. So maybe that has had a part to play. Obviously, they're dealing with a much wider network of deliveries. Zavi in the UK now are shipping the Razor Crest, so they have them to deal with. I think they've already started landing in Asia at the moment. I think we've seen a few pictures of people actually getting these things in Asia. Not in the US at present, but I'm sure they'll be next. But yeah, I think, pandemic, everybody's using the pandemic as an excuse, whether it be a legitimate one or one that's just convenient. As an excuse not to deliver within a certain amount of time. But like I said previously, this isn't a Kickstarter project. This isn't two fellas in a bedroom somewhere coming up with something that they think, oh, if we can get so many people on board, we can do it and we'll do it ourselves. This is Hasbro. They are a huge organisation. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever, given the lead time involved in this. I mean, yes, it is a big thing, but they have got the clout to be able to pull these things out of the bag, no problem. I think the time that they gave us was more than enough time to be able to get these things, pandemic or not. So, yeah, I mean, what are we, 4 months delayed now? It's just one of those things at the moment, isn't it? Everybody's using it as an excuse, the pandemic and whatever. So it might sort of sully people's opinions of what they do in the future with regards to future purchases from Haslab. I don't know. It probably won't put me off if there's something really, really cool that I want. Whether it takes a year or not, I don't know. But it's a bit of a poor showing, really.
Indeed. Great discussion, boys. I nearly backed it, but didn't.
No surprises there.
Yeah, do you know what? A couple of days before the end of it, I was sitting out here in Tiki 421, obviously. And yes, I sat there and did hover over it.
I think Haslab should stick with things like ships, weapons, and because Hot Toys have found their place, creatures and people. That's Hot Toys, right? So Haslab should go, right, yeah, you got a vintage collection. You're right about the scale. I don't like any of the last up with the clear points of articulation, the knee joints and stuff like that. I just thought it looks crap. But they do outstanding. That Razor Crest you guys have got, it's going to look amazing. And the Katana looks brilliant. So they can do it. I think stick with what you know best. Don't get greedy and leave Hot Toys to deal with the people and the creatures. And I think everyone will be cool.
Oh. You will bring Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me.
Oh no, the Rancor!
In the galaxy of adventures, a Jedi must improvise to escape.
Now we're heading over to the toys of the year. Now Dan's just given us a quick overview on numbers and what we've missed. Now rather than like last year we go through and we make a list of each of these toy areas, we've decided, as there's 6 of us, to just go round and we'll go through the vintage collection, the Black Series, Hot Toys, miscellaneous, and the biggest disappointment. So 5 categories, and I'm going to get all one answer from all of you and why you've chosen that. Doesn't matter if you've all chosen the same, but we are looking for our favourite figure in each section. So I'm going to go to the vintage collection first. We're talking the 3 3/4 inch figures here, and I'm going to come to you first, Jez.
Do you know what? Quite simply, the Emperor. I think it was 202 or something. I'll get the number of it in a minute. But yeah, Star Wars Vintage Collection, the Emperor. This is the Emperor which I wanted. This is the Emperor, which not only does he look badass, but he's got soft goods, his cloak, but he's got the lightning. He's got the lightning coming out of his fingers, which is what I was convinced we were going to get as a kid. And I think he just looks brilliant. What I said earlier on with regards to the Rancor is about the articulation. I don't like, it's a simple time that we had just the simple points of articulation in the original figures. Now, you've got articulation at the knees. For me, that's a massive turn off on a lot of these figures if they haven't camouflaged it or contained it within the costume. So I think droids can get away with it. There was a couple of the figures which came out, and Black Series ones as well, which came out during the year, and I was just like, no, that looks rubbish, because I can clearly see the articulation. So for me, the Emperor with his cloak covering everything up as well, and that horrible sort of evil look on his face, I think it's a brilliant figure.
Was that the throne room set?
No, it wasn't. So you've got the throne room set, but this is a standalone as well. Yeah, I think it's the V200, still readily available.
The throne room set was a PulseCon exclusive, and then they released the figure on its single card back on its own.
Nice.
I think it looks great.
Good choice. Good choice. Head over to the enhanced version for images with this. Well done, Jez. Nice choice. Let's keep it going. Dan.
So I'm going with the Droids Boba Fett figure that was released. It's come out now. Comes with the coin, which is a replica of the one that came originally with the original Boba Fett from back in the day on the Droids card. It's really cool. I ordered it on a bit of a whim. It came through, and I've got it in one of my cabinets now, and it looks fantastic. So it looks like the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett that was recently released. It's been repainted to look more like he did in the Droids cartoon. Very similar as well to the holiday special one. So yeah, very good.
Nice. Craig?
I'm not massively close to these to have a hugely informed opinion, but I'm going to go with the AT-ST driver purely because he was one of the original 96, and you take his little helmet off and he's got Richard Marquand's head.
Nice. Good reasoning. Mark?
I'm going to go for the Shore Trooper builder set, because I love the box it comes in, and I love the fact there's 4 of them. They're all different, and I think it's great. And the Shore Troopers are, without doubt, one of my favourite designs from Star Wars costuming ever.
Great choice. And Grant?
For me, I think it's the ARC Troopers that got me collecting this vintage collection. I wish they would do Commander Colt. They did him back in the Saga Legends back in about 2009. So I wish they would redo him. But some of the ones that they've reissued recently are definitely my favourites. So if I was going to go for one, are we talking carded or loose? I'm just kidding. I'm going to go for ARC Trooper Echo, because that I think that got me back into collecting loose modern.
Nice. Well, all different choices there.
What about you, Stu?
Again, it's not really my range, but I do quite like the Bo-Katan generally as a figure. I just think she's got a good look, and could well be choosing her for something else as well later. So
a lot of these are common in other people's like bloggers' top 10 lists. Seems to be the same figures coming up.
Yeah, I mean they're nailing the vintage collection. They look great on the vintage style cards, don't they? Let's be honest. They're
Can I just share something with you a second? Because what we were talking about earlier on, going back off Ty, I just want to get Dan's opinion on this as well, because I'm just sending you a link now to the vintage collection Aayla Secura, and I think, Dan, is this year's, or was this coming out
this year, mate? I've got it pre-ordered for next year.
Yeah, right. So you look at that, right, which I think this was on my reserve in case anyone else, I went last and someone else had chosen the Emperor, by the way. What I love about this one is actually when you look at this figure on a card, it's actually got a homage to the Clone Wars, and I think that's quite cool. I think they're not relying on Aayla Secura from the films, more the animation side of it, but then actually the whole sort of boob tube sort of cleavage, bare midriff, etc. That kind of goes in the face of what Grant was saying a little bit. There's cleavage there, for crying out loud. I think that is sexualizing that character.
Yeah,
a little bit. So that kind of goes against what your thoughts were maybe earlier on. So I just wanted to share that with you. Doesn't necessarily need to go in the pod, but that's a current brand new thing, and that's showing someone. I mean, one of the images there is a real sort of almost, it looks like it's been photoshopped. Her waist goes in tiny. It's almost like there's a loose one of her in a particular pose, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a little bit skimpy, and so there we go. That was another option which I thought actually was a really, really good figure, but I liked the card back on that one in particular.
It is a good point. It's just
check out the Barriss Offee, Jez. That's a beautiful figure with a beautiful cloth outfit on it. I think the Aayla Secura is a bit baggy on that cape, but the Barriss Offee is super nice.
Okay, I have to check that out. I'll tell you what is a good one, and I'm just going to share this because I got excited earlier on looking at some of these. I was complaining about some of these, and their articulation I think takes a little bit away, and they look a little bit crap. Well, I think this one actually is a good one for a starter for someone on this, and it's just simply it's the Mandalorian. It's the finished collection Mandalorian guy. I think the way they've done this figure is really good. Yeah, I like that, and I think that's a good price point. When you look at the articulation point, what are you laughing about that?
You're talking yourself into it.
I've got one. I'm selling one at the minute. Jez, if you want it. I've got that one.
Yeah, so I think that's quite good.
Is that the same one we'll be getting with the Razor Crest with a cloth cape?
Pretty much with a cloth cape, yeah.
Same card back, or is it coming with a card back?
It doesn't come with the Grogu and the Mandalorian come loose, I'm assuming, in baggies, but it's the other bits that are carded. There's 2 carded figures of it, isn't there? There's the Jawa and there's the second one. I can't remember what it is.
That's the Grogu, isn't it?
Yeah.
There, Grogu. Yes, you're right. He doesn't. Yeah, it's just the Mando comes. He doesn't come on a card back. He's in a baggie.
All right. Okay.
They are nice though, aren't they? These new Star Wars toys.
So let's move on to Black Series now. I know a few of us dabble in these, so probably a little bit more knowledge. Let's start with Dan.
I was going to say the Power of the Force 2 Cantina Showdown, but that's not more than one figure, isn't it? I think there's 3 in that. You'll allow it? I'm going to go with that. I really like that.
You ordered it?
Not yet.
Didn't like it that much then. Mark?
I'm going to go for the Miggs Mayfield Trooper Disguise, purely simply because I love that Trooper design, and I'm hoping we get a Black Series helmet of that exact, that grey Trooper helmet that he wears. I think it's fantastic.
Nice. Jez?
The ones which appealed to me the most was Cad Bane and Aura Singh, but I think the question was what came out last year, and I think the Cad Bane didn't come out last year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And the Aura Singh, I found then an Aura Singh online, which is actually coming out in March this year. So, so it looks like I might have shot either side of the year in which you were asking me to look at. So
Aura Singh's out. I've got it in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got an Aura Singh here, which I think I'll drop into the chat. I think that looks great. It might be to do with the maybe it's to do with Leah Bush as well. Anything with a long barreled weapon, anything with a sort of sniper rifle, I think is quite cool, quite like. And I think she just looks badass anyway. I mean, as aliens go, Aura Singh is a badass figure. So yeah, I think that one would be mine. But also the Boba Fett, which I've just bought. So but again, I think that was the year before because they're doing another one for next year, aren't they, Dan?
There's loads of Boba Fett's coming out, mate.
Yeah.
Just the one you've got is 2021. The Return of the Jedi Deluxe is 2021.
Deluxe, yeah, that came out this year, mate.
Right. You're golden. Yeah, I can say that one and the Aura Singh. There you go. Cool.
Grant.
I think the quality of the Black Series has got me interested. A lot of the ones I'm into came out in 2020. Seems that we went for the Echo for the TVC. I'm going to go for the Clone Wars Lucasfilm 50th anniversary Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think the facial recognition kit is obviously working because this is a massive jump to the Force Awakens figures that we had 6 years ago. So I'll go with that one.
Yeah, good choice. And Craig?
Yeah, lots of really good sculpts on the Black Series. I'm going to go Bo-Katan. I think when I first saw this figure, I saw like an image of a loose one, and I wasn't sure what scale it was. That's how good the sculpting is on that. It's a great piece of work, great sculpt, great paint, and representative of exciting new quality Star Wars. The biggest surprise of last year was seeing that Power of the Force 2 Cantina 3-pack. I was not expecting to see that packaging paid such a homage to.
Yeah, great choices. All different. I would have also gone for the Power of the Force 2 Cantina Showdown. I think it's brilliant. I think there's been some brilliant ones. I've got a few in hand, but you can't beat a good old Jar Jar Binks. Great to see him getting some love from Hasbro again. On to Hot Toys then, where we dabble. I'm looking at the list. I've got several pre-ordered here. So we've got a lot of love here. Grant, where are you going?
Well, I'll go for all of them, but I'll go for Bo-Katan. That's I love that. I love that figure. I love the character, and there was no hesitation. As soon as it came up, I knew I was going to purchase it. It's a 100% guaranteed purchase.
Yeah, definitely. Craig?
Mando with the swoop bike. It says everything it needs to say about the show in one item on your shelf. It's dynamic, it's slick, it's cool, with his cloak flapping in the wind. It's like the Lone Ranger and Tonto on silver. It's just sums up the program.
Nice. Dan?
I think because it was such a moment, the Luke Skywalker Mandalorian, the deluxe one specifically with a Dark Trooper being force crushed, I just think I can't wait to get it. I didn't even put it on a payment plan. I've just paid for it outright. I'm just so excited to get that. And looking back at beginning of 2021 when they showed that episode, yeah, it just blew me away. I can't wait to get it.
Yeah, good choices so far. Jez?
I agree with Dan. I do like that one. I was also torn with the Stormtrooper Commander. I think just because of my fun I've had over the years dressed as a stormtrooper, but I don't know. I want to get one with a face. I really do, because I think, you look at what Mark's had in the past, with the Leias and the Lukes. I've been so on and off the fence with these. I really have. There's not been one yet which has made me go, absolutely that one. I think the closest one for me, though, is the Luke Mandalorian. I think it's just fantastic.
Interesting. Mark?
I would normally have said the Shore Trooper or the Shore Trooper squad leader, but I recently saw some pictures of the Fennec Shand figure. Again, the sculpting, the quality, it's breathtaking. I think that figure for me really, I mean, if I start going down the Hot Toys route, which is more and more likely, I can see myself buying some Mandalorian figures, because what they're putting out at the moment is just incredible.
There is some great ones here. I mean, I've got a few of these on pre-order. Fennec Shand I ordered on the day of release. Troops after the Shore Trooper squad leader today. And Bo-Katan I also ordered on the day of release, pre-ordered obviously. And I would have to go for Bo. I cannot wait for that figure. I just love the look of her as a figure. I just think she's amazing. I just went to click Dan's spreadsheet. I mean, if this was my spreadsheet, every single name would have been linked. But
you told me not to add the links and let them do the work, is what you said to me.
Yeah, I've changed my mind now. That's what makes it so interesting. Yeah, so I agree. I agree. Fennec and Bo for me, both really nice. And a Quill and a Blurg. There's someone in this room that doesn't like the Blurg, isn't there? Figure. Who was it when we covered it earlier in the year? Was it you, Jez?
Yeah, I was just like, what's the point of that? I didn't get the Blurg. I love Quill.
The detail on the Blurg, though, if you look around the eyes and stuff, is amazing. It's better than a Haslab Rancor, that's for sure, and it's probably the same price.
No arguments from me on that one.
If you are listening, you'll come into Echo Live. Jez will be dressed as a Blurg, giving rides around the centre that day. Not just for children, for adults too.
That Fennec Shand is blooming great, isn't it? It is. I've just seen it again now for the first time on my laptop, and yeah.
Don't buy characters until you've seen their life cycle, mate.
Yeah, or ships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know how the actress who plays Fennec Shand, do you know how old she is?
55.
She's in her 50s, isn't she?
She's 60.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah.
Tamara Morrison's nearly 60 as well. So you've got two 60-year-olds leading a Disney Plus show, which is pretty good.
That's exactly why I downloaded loads of fitness apps about 3 days ago.
You know what?
There's still a chance.
He might be 60, but his teeth are about 12 months. And it's a massive turn off for Julie, right? She was watching it, trying to watch it the other night, and she was like, I don't know what it is with him. It's his teeth. And she just said to me, something weird about his teeth. And as soon as she said that, I can't now unsee it. There were certain scenes in the flashback where it's like he's got a massive brand new set of dentures in, which just now looks so out of place.
Oh, we're going to look for it now, aren't we?
Yeah.
I didn't notice it.
Scout Troop is really good.
We'll probably get quite a few Book of Boba Fett's next year, especially Fett's.
I reckon, as the year goes, as each episode gets released, I think we'll start seeing them coming out. I mean, you think we've recorded in November, October time, the last show. 3 figures have come out since then, so it's been dead quiet. There's been tons of Marvel, Batmans, all sorts of Hot Toys releasing, no Star Wars. I think they're holding it all back for the next few weeks.
Hopefully. Yep, Scout Trooper is beautiful, Jez, isn't it? Is that one tickling your fancy, is it?
Yeah, just leaning against the biker scout. Anyway, no, holidays. Must buy a holiday.
Well, holiday special Boba Fett. That was a hot toy. Yeah, get involved. Okay then, gents. So, miscellaneous items. So, anything else? We've covered Vintage Collection, Black Series and Hot Toys. I mean, literally, there is a vast array of other stuff that has been released this year. So, Mark, I'm going to come to you first on this.
For me, it was the Mandalorian Nerf rifle. I loved it, and I bought one. That's how much I loved it. The packaging was great. I've not opened it. I've kept it sealed. But it's like I said earlier on, it's an absolute beast. It's massive.
Are you not tempted to open it and play with it?
No.
Oh, I would.
I reckon you need to buy yourself a second.
Yeah, I'll probably buy another one. What I'm seeing is on eBay, some people are selling them really, really cheap, like about 20, 30 quid, and then put in the postage at 150 quid.
Jez.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back a little bit to a little party which we had at yours, mate, because for me, Stormtrooper beer. Loved it. So at Christmas this year, I got the Stormtrooper Christmas Thirst Aid Kit, which was brilliant. Came with 5 330ml craft beers, a really lovely craft ale glass, and some beer snacks. So I had a whole mixture of the old Stormtrooper branded beers which unfortunately aren't available in America. But so the Shadow Stout, the Light Speed Pilsner, the SNIPR, so the Situation Normal India Pale Ale, and the Space Opera and the Galactic Pale Ale with some beer snacks as well. It's great. Something a little bit modern, something a little bit different. And I think I showed a picture of Craig. I was so excited. I think there's a couple in that case that you've not seen yet. Is that right, Craig?
There's a couple of cans I don't have. I've started to, actually save them all, and I've made a little display. I should over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, did you get into the Jedi Mind Trick beer that I gave you at?
Oh yeah, I've got that. Oh, yeah, do you know what? That's so lovely. I've got that on display right by me because that's the one with the wonderful wax dripping seal, isn't it, on the top?
Yeah, beautiful.
And, I think that might be one of those things very much like, the bubble baths from the 80s where you just don't open them, and they just stay there forever because part of the beauty of that is the wax seal around the top. So that's just behind me now, mate.
Lovely.
Grant, something miscellaneous?
Oh, mate, to be honest with you, I haven't really got enough on. I don't even look anywhere else. I'm just learning about the Black Series and the TVC, so I haven't really got any time to look at anything else.
Fair enough. Craig?
Well, Lego continue to impress, don't they? I mean, the AT-AT is just incredible. But the thing from last year that gets talked about the most in our house is that Mandalorian pinball machine.
Yes. Yeah, that was a moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I often get asked when we're going to make room for one of them.
And what's your response?
I
can't carry it up the stairs.
Gesture at the house and all the things therein.
Dan?
I'm going to stick with Lego as well, and I've just Father Christmas bought Harrison the Imperial Light cruiser from the Mandalorian to Moff Gideon's ship, and we've spent most of Christmas building that. We finished it yesterday. It was a bit of an undertaking, but yeah, it's a great build, excellent ship. Probably not going to be released by Hasbro anytime soon, and yeah, it was good fun to build. So I'm going to go with that.
Right then, boys. So the last group, okay, you can go through any of those lists that they sent you. What was the biggest disappointment of all the announcements for you? When you've looked through them, you just thought, why have they released that? That could have been done so much better. Craig, let's start with you because I know you're extremely disappointed.
Well, I think everyone's going to talk about repaints and carbonizing and holiday editions of things. So I think the Gentle Giant Jumbo Tarkin has to be the loser of the year in terms of the things we've talked about. I mean, personally, I haven't really bought anything and got it out of the box and have been disappointed with it. I think out of everything, about all the things I've purchased over the year, modern-wise, it's very disappointing to after going out and getting 2 games to buy 2 specific figures in the Tarkin and the Luke Snowspeeder retro collection figures. I'm disappointed that I now have this hassle and guilt of disposing of a whole load of card and plastic that I don't want. I'm not going to stick it on eBay. eBay's full of those games minus the figures. Do I put them in the recycling and take them to the charity shop? I don't know. That's kind of disappoints me that I have to deal with that because I want 2 little plastic men.
It is a good point. Grant?
I'm still hoping Hot Toys will announce a Jedi Fallen Order Triller second sister or a life-size BD-1. I mean, we're getting more Jedi Fallen Order figures than we are sequel trilogy, so there's a chance there. So I'm holding out for that, but still nothing.
Mark, biggest disappointment?
It's got to be the Rancor. Just the way it was handled, the way it was sold to people. Could have been so much more, and yeah, just it wasn't nice to see, really.
No, that's a good choice. Jez?
I would say Star Wars Black Series, Luke Skywalker, and the need some assistance with this is Salamari, which I believe is probably the correct pronunciation of this. I'm disappointed with it because I think they've let themselves down, because this is one of the ones, Stu, I think you might have bought this, you bought the Jacks, maybe you've got the full collection of these when they came out. So, all right, okay. You did buy...
Just Jackson.
Just Jacks, was it? Right, okay. So this is one which was sort of given a bit of a chuck up to the Heir of the Empire. In principle, it'd be really great. I mean, the box art for this is really, really great. It's really in keeping with the Timothy Zahn novel. So it's a really great book/box. And then you get this additional little Salamiri creature. But it's the actual Luke which lets it down. And you could argue, do we need another Luke? Could this have been a Mara Jade? Could this have been a Thrawn? Or could it have been a cloaked Luke? because yes, again, it's these points of articulation which I just think look rubbish. When I read that book, I didn't picture Luke just wearing a vest like he was in some sort of scene from Die Hard, which is what they've got him wearing. And I just think it's the actual Luke, the execution of this, which has really let it down. But the box, the packaging, and everything else, I think is really good. So I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed.
That package I think is from the comic version of it.
Yeah, but right, okay.
But I agree, those joints in the arm, they really stick out, don't they?
Yeah. Otherwise, I look at it now, and after having read the book, see, this is the thing. You know, I've read the books, and now I think, oh yeah, actually, I like that. I want to get things which are connected with it. You know, the Nominor, I'm getting the expanded universe stuff and reading those books, and I just think, that's great, because I love these acknowledgements of the past and of the EU. So it's just recognizing that there are things outside of canon. I like that, but it could have been done so much better.
And Dan?
Oh, I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to have a bit of a Hot Toys critique just around the focus on Mandalorian at the moment. And I suppose my fear they're going to do the same next year with Book of Boba Fett, and a lot of the original trilogy figures that I want are going to get overlooked and probably a number of years away. So I'd still love to get a hand Bespin. I think Mark mentioned that, and it has been kind of hinted at. But even something like a 2-1, I mentioned before, a 2-1B. I'd love a 2-1B Hot Toy, but I don't think it'll ever happen. So that's my disappointment for the year. It's too much Mandalorian and Hot Toys.
I don't think you're going to get a 2-1B Hot Toy.
I'll watch this space.
No, mate.
FX7?
Nah.
It might get an 88 one maybe, but that'll be it.
They are utility droids from the Star Wars universe that are kicking around at the time these new TV shows are coming out. They could put in an appearance.
Thank you, Craig.
They're going to make an FX7 Hot Toy, Craig.
If there's a big scene where Fennec Shand gets beaten up and they have to put her back together, and there's a big episode centered around those three in a room. You
watch tomorrow. Boba Fett's back to tank's going to break down, and 2-1B is going to come in and save his life, and you'll be wrong.
No. I mean, Craig's just trying to be nice and give you hope, Dan, which I don't think's helping. I really don't.
I could have been really boring and just slagged off carbonized figures, but I thought I'd change it up a bit.
Yeah, but they've brought in Shore Troopers because they were in the Mandalorian.
Exactly. You tell them.
So
they've even done a Dark Trooper figure that Stu's pre-ordered.
But they were quite a focal point in one episode, weren't they?
2-1B might be.
No, Daniel.
Wait and see. There's lots of Star Wars that come out this year.
Making yourself look very silly, and I'm trying to help. Always got your back. There you go. Be interesting to know if any of our listeners what their favourite things was. Perhaps someone could stick a poll up as we release this. 5 different areas, 1 a day for the 5 days following this.
I don't care what your tablet says. This is Mos Espa, and I am Daimyo here.
Oh.
Right then, boys. So before we close out for this first show, what are your plans for 2022 with regards to modern? Okay, let's have a little go around. Now, Jez, I'm going to come to you first this time. You've dabbled in there. Yeah. You're buying. What's your thought process?
What's my thought process? I want to know more. I'm really enjoying learning more, and you guys explain a little bit more, which we've done outside of the podcast. I really do want to know that if there are other people, or if it's just me, if there are other people who are like, well, actually, yeah, okay, do a podcast episode or a couple of episodes on the Power of the Force range, because it's vast. Power of the Force 2 is vast. There are so many things to it, which, you guys know, and it's really, really interesting, and the other ranges. I'm now looking at these things and I don't know. As I said, I'm looking now at a tri-logo Boba Fett Power of the Force 2 before anyone gets carried away, and a Black Series Fett, and I'm like, what have you mentioned earlier on? Oh, there you go, Star Wars Focus. I'm thinking, okay, maybe if I get a vintage collection, I could get a Fett, and maybe if I were to ever get a Hot Toy, it could be maybe a Fett. I don't know. So I'm enjoying having my horizons broadened. I have entered an expanded universe in a almost literal sense. But it'd be, I'd be interested to know if there's actually a sort of spin-off show which we could do as part of Generation Skywalker, maybe talking about stuff which isn't quite so modern, but actually it has relevance in collecting.
Definitely. You're at the beginning of that journey, so interesting. We'll watch you with interest this year. Mark, plans? Much the same?
I'm going to be pre-ordering my Hot Toys 2-1B in March when it comes out, when it's announced.
Yep. Okay, another fool.
Yeah, but no, pretty hot toys for me. I would hope, and I'll echo Dan's wish list, I hope we get Han Bespin. It's just one of my favourite outfits from the whole of the Star Wars original trilogy, Han and Bespin gear. So, I'd like to see that and put it next to my Lando and Leia, and then maybe hopefully get a 3PO to go alongside it. So I've got the whole Bespin sort of gang there. I think Dan mentioned that they might be doing another Luke Bespin as well. So, add that to the collection. Yeah, Hot Toys is direction for me, mate.
Yeah, good choice. Grant.
Mate, I spent last week going through all of the modern releases and cherry-picked a couple of loose ones and a couple of carded ones, so I'll probably be hunting those down this year. I really liked, the reason why I'm not going to tell you which ones I'm looking for, not because I'm worried that you'll go on eBay and buy them from my watch list, but mostly because I can't actually explain what their names are or what they sound like. One of them is called Karuk. Do you know this one from the Legacy Collection? Exactly, yeah. Go on, Craig.
Didn't we talk about him on the Expanded Universe figures?
He is I tell you what, for a sculpt, it's one of the most amazing figures I've ever seen. I started doing a bit of a deep dive on some of these modern figures, and some of them are absolutely incredible. I can't believe I've missed these. So I'll probably hunt down a couple of those, and obviously I'll give you some images of this one, Craig, and then all the rest of you guys will go, oh, that's really good, that is, and probably try and buy it as well. And obviously the Bo-Katan hot toy, be looking forward to putting an order in for that, and probably paying off the vast amounts of payment plans I've got for Phantom Menace paperwork.
Sounds like a very busy year, mate.
Always, man.
Craig.
My modern collecting plans for 2022. I will do more cherry picking, and one thing that is guaranteed is that I will go off on some tangents. Given my latest Funko Pop purchase, my latest tangent is clearly Darth Vader figures painted in creative ways. But when I say creative ways, I don't mean carbonized. But, that's, I think, a nice set of 3 Vaders at different scales, different sizes. So I've been looking at the 2007 30th anniversary Marvel comic Vader, which I think would sit quite nicely with the Jackson, the Funko pieces. So things like that will happen, I'm sure, in 2022.
So if anyone's got an old beta Darth Vader, please just paint it randomly and send it to Craig. That would be, Joe, that would make me so happy if he was just get your 3-year-old to get an old Vader, and let's see how many Vaders painted we can send to.
It'd be like the thing they did at Celebration where they painted all the collector's cases.
It'd be exactly like that. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's the same as me thinking I'm going to dress up as Gizmo and look just like Gizmo.
I've also got the Gentle Giant Leia milestone statue on pre-order, yes, which we discussed sort of somewhere in the summer, I think. I've not heard anything about that. I just paid the money, and is that how these pre-orders work? You just pay the money and hope it turns up?
Seems to be. Basically.
I'll obviously be getting the continuation of the Mandalorian retro collection. And I would like a little Black Series Mandalorian and Grogu that I can hang above my desk like they're flying on his jetpack. In terms of things that I'd like to see announced, so I'm a graphic designer, have been all my career. Takes quite a lot to impress me, but I really do like these Theory 11 cards that I keep banging on about. So, hopefully they will do a book of Boba Fett featuring those characters. I just think they're very stylish and unique interpretations of these characters. We live in this age where these brands are so tightly controlled, but they're giving the creators of those things a little bit of free rein to do something really, really cool. And also in terms of, what might be nice to see announced, what if Shizor crops up in the book of Boba Fett, and what will that do to my Shadows of the Empire side focus?
Oh, that's a good one. My tail's wagging there, Craig.
And also one thing, in terms of what lines are smashing it at the minute, not smashing it in the, oh no, I've dropped it and I've destroyed a 50 quid Tiki bowl, but Geeky Tiki's lots of stuff coming out that have been either hinted at or we've seen images of TIE fighters this week, all lined up in the kiln, and some what look to be finished sand crawlers as well. what I'm going to go for, where I'm going to put it all, yet to be determined. But I think Geeky Tiki's again be a brand to watch in 2022.
Isn't that Sandcrawler brilliant?
It's great, isn't it?
Oh, I did love it when I think it was you that put it into the group. I was like, whoa. I mean, that could be a tough one to get over here, a bit like the Falcon, but
another group order.
Yeah, maybe a group order. Well done, Dan. Dan's just volunteered to sort out a group order there.
That's exactly what I
your
heard.
hand up very early there, Dan.
2 minutes.
I've got one missing. It must be Daniel.
I'm really excited for that Razor Crest. So yeah, I've got space set aside for that. So I'll as soon as that, I was going to say comes through the letterbox, but it won't, will it? It's going to be imagine on some sort of trolley because it's massive. So I'm looking forward to getting that. More Hot Toys. So I've got the Luke Snowspeeder pilot on pre-order. I've got the Boba Fett 2-pack on pre-order. I've got that Luke Jedi from Mandalorian on pre-order, and I imagine there'll be a few more added to the list as the year goes on. Oh, and that retro collection season 2 or series 2 of Mandalorian figures is hopefully coming in the next couple of months as well. So yeah, looking forward to all of that.
Definitely. Mine's all about getting my room sorted this year, kind of getting it as I want it in the first half of the year and try not to buy stuff, which is rubbish because I've already purchased 2 items. It's only the 4th of January. So that is going really well. Do we think it's just going to be Book of Boba Fett this year, toy releases wise? We're going to see anything much different?
Yes, Andor coming out. There's Kenobi coming out. Tons of stuff coming down the pipe.
So what are the release dates for those? As
there aren't any.
Not even a rough time period that we're looking at.
I don't know what Grant knows. I don't know which one's coming first. I'm guessing Kenobi's going to be coming around May. I've heard May time for that.
That's the rumours, is May for Kenobi and then in the fall for Andor. But Mandalorian Season 3 started production, filming in September, I believe. So they're already underway on that as well. It's quite a well-oiled machine that they've got going at the moment.
I think Andor's like a longer series as well. Isn't it like 12 episodes? It's not like the 6 or 7 they've been doing for Mando and Book of Boba Fett. It's a longer season.
What they've got to do is they've got to keep people signed up to Disney Plus. They've got to keep you hooked in. So they've got to produce the material. And they know full well that the reason why a lot of people are buying Disney Plus is because of the Star Wars content.
Mark, I agree with you with that. So why don't they make extra minutes of Boba Fett leaving the Sarlacc pit? If they want us glued in there, I don't understand why they are in such a rush to finish the episodes.
I don't know. I just get the feeling that maybe this Book of Boba Fett is just going to be like maybe 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a long thing. I don't think it's going to be. I'd be amazed if it goes more than 2 seasons.
Green and gray suit with a cape on his back. He's got a carbine rifle if he needs to attack. He was born on Camino where the whole place is wet. OG bounty hunter and his name is Boba Fett. His ship looks like an iron, but you know he's not the cleaners. He can get away with murder, felonies, and misdemeanors. He's got a flamethrower and a rocket on his back, and he kill you from the sky cause he's got a jetpack. He's Boba Fett.
You're more used to me, Dad. Take him down. It'll take more than that.
He's flying Slave 1, chasing the Millennium Falcon. You know the Empire paid him. He's in the middle like Malcolm. He can find you in the day or in the middle of the night and take your ass to Cloud City and freeze you in carbonite. Ice cold like Hoss when he's talking to Vader, but he can make it real hot with this thermal detonator. Hanging out at Jabba's palace in a galactic celebrity. Sometimes I walk with my legs and I do it successfully. What? His dad, Jango Fett, wanted all the Jedi dead, but Daddy got real cocky and it got to his head. Too soon. Maybe we should stay away from mentioning the prequels. The writing was garbage and it upset a lot of people. He's the illest of the ill, the baddest outlaw in sci-fi. That antenna on his helmet steals Imperial Wi-Fi. Always working alone, but he doesn't like Solo. When he fell into the Sarlacc pit, I heard him yell YOLO!
This job isn't always pretty.
We are going to put those polls out on We Are Generation Skywalker on Facebook, so go and sign up for the page if you're not on there. They'll each be releasing one topic a day for 5 days following the release of this show. We will ensure that. So go out to Facebook, just check out Generation Skywalker, head over to Twitter and Instagram. Again, look for Generation Skywalker. Head over to YouTube, where you will find an enhanced version of this show and unboxing videos and all sorts of stuff that we've done in the past, including our recent video of Farthest From. Again, just search for Generation Skywalker. You can email us if you would like to come onto the show, be a guest, do an interview. Just email us at generationskywalker@gmail.com. gmail.com, or you could just head over to www.generationskywalker.com, where you'll find links to all of our platforms, including our blog posts over there. What was the last blog post? Anyone remember?
The
Looking. Yeah, brilliant blog post. So there you go. There's one to go and delve into. But there were some great blog posts over there. I think me, Jez, and Mark all owe a blog post at some point, don't we? I think we're the only ones not to come through with that so far.
I'm going to do one with a commission that I've got coming, hopefully very, very soon.
Me, Mark, and Jez will do one before the end of 2022.
Yeah.
For definite. Yeah, go and check out the website as well. But lads, great to be back recording. Beginning of January, got lots of plans for this year. So it is goodbye from Jez.
See you next time, everyone.
Goodbye from Mark.
Sayonara, RoboCop.
It's goodbye from Grant.
Good evening, folks.
More of a welcome, but we'll let you off. Goodbye from Craig.
Cheerio.
And it is goodbye from our modern man, Dan.
This is the way.
And it is good night from me. We're Generation Skywalker.